Okay, here's my WEC 49 predictions. Varner versus Shalorus takes place this Sunday, June 20th at the Rexall place in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Main event, obviously, Jamie Varner versus Kamal Shalorus. You know, probably more like for the #1 contender to fight Ben Henderson. I mean, whoever wins this, I see him losing to Ben Henderson, but it's for the #1 contenders. Just like I always do, preliminaries, just going to say who wins and the main card, discuss it. So let's get this going. Barao versus Anthony Leone. I got Barao. Raphael Rebello versus Chris Cariaso. I got Rebello. Raphael Assuncao versus Diego Nunes. I got Nunes. Bendy Casimir versus Erik Koch. I got Koch. Wagnney Fabiano versus Frank Gomez. I got Fabiano. And Kerr Darabedyan versus Kerr. I got Darabedyan. To the main card, I got Eddie Wineland versus Campuzano. I think it's going to be an exciting fight. I think it's going to go back and forth. Fight of the night. I've written all over it. Both of them have great chins. Both of them have great heart. And both of them know how to fight. I don't think it's going to be the Leonard Garcia, Chung Sung Jung fight, the Korean Zombie, where it's crazy. And I think this is going to be more of a technical war, and I think a lot of people are going to find this an exciting fight. Both of them want to move up in their division, but I'm going to give a slight advantage to Campuzano. I think he's going to use his reach really well. I think even if he goes to the ground, he knows how to use those long limbs of his. But Eddie Wineland's pretty tough to stop, so is Campuzano. So I'm going to go with Campuzano, split decision over Eddie Wineland. Next fight, Chris HORODECKI versus Ed Ratcliffe. This could be a stand-up fight. HORODECKI's more of a stand-up fighter, but if anyone wants to take this to the ground, it would be HORODECKI. He might be a little timid to keep it standing after his last loss to, I think it was, what was it, Jabouin, with that brutal flying head kick that just knocked him silly. And Ed Ratcliffe, he's not going to be doing any flying head kicks, but his strikes are very technical and they're very sharp and fast. So maybe that's why his name is 9mm. But it's just he's a great striker. Ed Ratcliffe is, and he's gonna give a lot of problems with Chris HORODECKI. So if HORODECKI takes it to the ground, Ed Ratcliffe could have some trouble, and I think that is what's gonna be HORODECKI's plan. But I mean that would be my plan. That's what I was trying to say. I think that would be my plan if I was HORODECKI. But we don't know. But I'm going to go with Ratcliffe, second round TKO. I think his striking is just much better than HORODECKI's is. And I think Chris HORODECKI just isn't quite there yet. I think him coming out of the IFL, he was a little overrated. Okay, I think he was a major overrated coming out of the IFL. And yeah, not a big fan of HORODECKI. But I just think Ratcliffe is just a much better striker than HORODECKI. So, at 9mm Ratcliffe, second round TKO over Chris HORODECKI. Next fight, Hominick versus Yves Jabouin. Hominick, when he fights, it's either a hit or a miss. He either shows up or he doesn't show up. It's like he has a great performance one night, and then one night, and then a horrible performance another night. It's just like you never know. And he cannot have a bad night against Yves Jabouin because Yves can hit hard, he is fast, he is explosive, and he loves the knockout. So with that saying, I can't count on Hominick to show up in this fight. So I'm going to go with Yves Jabouin by second round TKO. I'm going to go Yves Jabouin, first round TKO over Hominick. I mean, if Hominick shows up, then yeah, he has a great chance of winning this fight. But he shows up, and then he doesn't show up, and then he shows up. It just we don't know which Hominick we're going to see in this fight. And if Hominick shows up with everything that he has in his arsenal, he could win this fight. But sometimes he doesn't even show up, and he performs really horrible. And so with that, I'm going to go with Jabouin. First round TKO over Hominick. Next fight, Josh Grispi versus LC Davis. This one, they're both ground guys. Davis, a great wrestler who takes it to the ground, and he's pretty good at jiu-jitsu too. He's really good at submissions, and he's good at submission defense. But at the same time, Josh Grispi hasn't fought since his last fight, which I think Jens Pulver's should have been his last fight. And he beat Jens Pulver pretty quickly. It was like a year ago, actually. I think it was like beginning of June in his last fight. So, I mean, I used cage wrestle, lost a lot in my predictions. I used it against the Rampage Evans fight. I just thought it was too much for Rampage, and I think it's going to be the same for Grispi. that's a long time to be out of the cage. And I think Davis, who's been more active, but if you go for straight skills, I could give it to Grispi. I think he could submit Davis. He has great submissions, but overall skills, stand up and on the ground, I gotta give it to Davis. I don't see Davis finishing Grispi, but we do get another one of LC's decisions. I mean, Davis, I guess, loves going all 3 rounds because majority of his wins have came by the judges' scorecard. So LC Davis, unanimous decision over Josh Grispi. I like to see Grispi win this one. I'm a big fan of him, but I just think him being out of the cage for about a year, just too much for him. And Davis he's a good fighter. Legitimately, he's a good fighter. He's well-rounded, and I think it's just gonna be too much for Grispi. So LC Davis, using his wrestling, unanimous decision over Josh Grispi. On to the main event, Jamie Varner versus Kamal Shalorus. This could be, a lot of people might think, why am I picking this one, and why am I picking who I'm going to pick? But I'm going to go with Kamal. I think he can surprise the world. He's a great wrestler. I'm going to give the wrestling advantage to Shalorus. Varner is a great wrestler. We all know he is. But Shalorus, he's a great wrestler too. He was a 2004 Olympian. Possibly he was, at that time, top 10 wrestler in the world. He still has that wrestling ability. He's shown that fight, and his stand-up is not too bad either. I think he has enough stand-up to keep him in the fight until he gets Varner to the ground, and he's on ground and pound Varner. I think he can get Varner to the ground, and I think he can keep Varner on his back. Can he stay out of Varner's submission attempts? Yeah, because I don't think Varner really has submission. And, I mean, he's well-rounded. Yes, Varner is well-rounded, but at the same time, I like Shalorus in this fight. I think he's going to use his wrestling. I think he's stronger than Varner, and I think he's just manhandle Jamie Varner. I think this is going to be a great performance by Kamal. I could be wrong, and it could go Varner's way, but that's just how I see it. I like Shalorus, so I'm going to go with Kamal Shalorus, unanimous decision over Jamie Varner. So there it is, my WEC 49 predictions. I think it's a pretty good night. So yeah. So there you go. There's my predictions. I'm out of here. Adios. Good night.